Alright, we're talking about special right triangles today, and the first one we're going to talk about comes from when you take a square and draw a diagonal. It's cutting it into two congruent triangles, okay, and we know that the diagonal of a square bisects the angles. So if these angles were originally 90 degrees, which they were because it was a square, they're cut exactly in half to make 45-degree angles. So you're creating two right isosceles triangles. Okay, we know the sides are congruent and these angles are congruent. It's isosceles. I'm taking just one of those and drawing it out here to the side so that you can see it a little better. And that's our first special right triangle, a 45, 45, 90. Now, what's special about it is that you only have to know one side and you're able to find the other two missing sides. Okay, now normally in a right triangle you have to know two sides and you can find the third missing side. Okay, and you would do that using Pythagorean theorem. Okay, but that's why these are special. You don't have to use Pythagorean theorem and you only have to know one side. Okay, you're going to set up charts for these. The first one is going to look like this because it's a 45, 45, 90. The formulas for these are on your formula chart, so if you can't memorize them or you forget, you can always go back and look at your formula chart. Okay, the formula for the side across from the 45s, obviously those are going to be the same because it's isosceles. Okay, and we're going to call that side x. Okay, so the length of the legs are x, and the length of the hypotenuse across from the 90 is going to be x square root of 2. Okay, it's being multiplied, x times the square root of 2. Okay, so if you have a problem where you're given one of the sides, I guess let's label that x square root of 2. Okay, if you're given one of the sides, let's say you're told that this is 6 meters. Okay, that's what goes in this bottom row of the chart that I had you draw. Okay, is the length of the side. So the length across from the 45, so it goes under the 45s, is 6. That means x is 6. So that would go here as well, because these are always going to be equal in a 45, 45, 90. Now x is 6, so where we see x, we can plug in a 6. So this would be 6 times the square root of 2. And I want you to leave your answers in this form. This is called radical form, where you have that square root in there still. If you type this into the calculator, it'll give you a decimal and you can round it, but that's an estimate. Alright, I shouldn't say estimate. It's an approximate number. Okay, it's not exact. Okay, so I want you to leave it this way because this is the exact answer. Okay, and so that would be 6 meters here and 6 square root of 2 meters here. Now, if you're given a multiple choice question, for instance, on a STAR exam, and you don't see this answer choice, okay, but you see decimals, just type this in to see what that decimal would be. The second type of special right triangle is a 30, 60, 90, and we'll set up the same chart, but our little equations or formulas are going to be slightly different. Okay, the side across from the 30, okay, across from 30, that side there, okay, is going to be our x, because it's across from, it's the shortest side across from the smallest angle. You should remember that from a couple chapters ago. We always said that the shortest side in a triangle is across from the smallest angle. Okay, and the largest side is across from the largest angle. In this case, that would be the 90 and the hypotenuse. So this is x. Okay, these are not going to be the same because these angles are different, so the sides are different. The formula for the side across from the 60 is x square root of 3. So that goes here in your chart. And across from the 90 is 2x. That's twice as long as the shortest leg. So, for instance, if you were told that this leg was 7 inches, okay, that's across from the 30, so it goes under the 30. That means x is 7. When they're in the same column, they're equal. X equals 7. So everywhere we see x, we can plug in a 7. So 2 times 7 is 14. And here, that would be 7 times square root of 3. And I want you to leave that as your answer in that form. Alright. I want you to try these 4 examples. Given the one side in pink, I want you to find the missing 2 sides. Okay, you'll just have to pause the video, take as much time as you need, get what you can. I don't expect you to be able to do all of these. We're just learning it, but I want you to go ahead and give them a try, and then go ahead and replay the video, and I'll go over each of them. And I want you to bring this to class with you tomorrow, and we'll go, you need to be able to do these in class, okay? I'll be taking this, that's how I'm going to get your grade for these, since we had such a lack of watching the videos last semester. I'm going to have to start taking grades for each video, okay? And that's how I'm going to know that you watched it, is that you'll be able to do these in class. Okay, so make sure that you actually try these, and then you pay attention and write down the correct steps. Alright, so now if you're playing back to see if you got the right answers, for number 1, this is a 30, 60, 90, because you have a 90 and a 30, this must be 60. So when you set up your chart, should look like this, and it would be x square root of 3, 2x. Alright, now they gave us a 5, and that's across from 30, so it goes in the column with a 30 is a 5. So everywhere I see x, I'm going to write 5. So 5 square root of 3, 2 times 5 is 10. Okay, so this would be 10, and this is in feet, because that's what was given, and 5 square root of 3 feet. Okay, so this is pretty simple. When the x side is the one that's given, these are really pretty easy. Okay, this is another 30, 60, 90. This side is the 30, the angle is 30, so this side is our x. So in this one, we're not given x, so this one's going to be a little more complicated, because we have to find x. The side we're given is across from 60, so it goes here, 12. Okay, and remember your formulas were x square root of 3, and 2x. A lot of people make the mistake here. They want to write 12 square root of 3 since there's a square root of 3 in the formula, and that's incorrect. It is 12 centimeters, so you just write 12. Okay, these are equal to each other. This means x square root of 3 is 12. Okay, so now to solve this, it's algebra. This right here is being multiplied, so to get rid of the square root of 3, you're going to divide. So divide by square root of 3. Okay, and that cancels it out. You have your x by itself. So x is 12 divided by square root of 3. Now I told you I want you to leave your answers with the square root in them, and that's true. But in this case, you have a fraction, and we do not want square roots in the bottom of a fraction. Your denominator can't have a square root. So you have to do what's called rationalizing. And when you rationalize, okay, that means to get rid of the radical in the denominator. So to do that, you multiply by whatever that radical is to your numerator and denominator. And just that goes straight across. So 12 times square root of 3 is 12 square root of 3. When you multiply radicals, you're multiplying what's underneath. So this is 3 times 3, which is 9, and it's under the square root. So the square root of 9 is 3. Okay, so essentially what just happened there, when you multiply square roots or cube roots, as long as they're the same radical and the number underneath is exactly the same, you're just dropping the square root sign, and you're just left with the number. Okay, so then you can look at your number out front in the numerator and see if this can reduce. And 12 divided by 3 can. That is 4, and you still have your square root of 3. So x is 4 square root of 3. So in your table, that goes here, 4 square root of 3. That's your x value. So when we multiply by 2, you're multiplying the number not under the square root. So 4 times 2 is 8, and you still have square root of 3. So when you go to label that in your picture, across from the 30, so this leg is 4 square root of 3. This is measured in centimeters. Across from the 90, that's your hypotenuse, is 8 square root of 3 centimeters. Okay. All right. on 3, you should have realized that this is a 45, 45, 90, because even though only one of them's given, you know this must also be 45 because the 3 angles have to add to 180 because it's a triangle. So when you set up your table, you'll put in your formulas as x, x, and x squared of 2. This is a really easy problem. When you're given the leg, you're given x. That's what we're given here. It's across from a 45, so that's 9. So this must also be 9. So this side is 9 inches as well. Okay, and all we have to do is plug in a 9 where the x is. So 9 square root of 2. So this is 9 square root of 2 inches. Again, if you had a multiple choice and your answers were in decimals, you would just type that into your calculator. 9 square root of 2, enter. Okay, again, this is a 45, 45, 90. If you didn't realize that, where that's coming from is these tick marks. These mean congruent. So this is isosceles. So if the sides are congruent, then the angles are congruent. And if you have congruent angles in a right triangle, they must be 45 because the total has to be 180 again. So we'll set up our chart. Then this one's going to be a little more complicated because it's not a leg that's given. You're given the hypotenuse. So we're given 34 is the hypotenuse. I'm going to go ahead and put my formulas in here. X, x, and x square root of 2. Okay, again, don't write 34 square root of 2. It's just 34. That means these are equal to each other. So x square root of 2 equals 34. Okay, just like we did on the last, we're going to do that algebra. This is being multiplied, so I divide to get x by itself. So x is 34 over square root of 2, but I need to rationalize. So I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by square root of 2. That cancels out. Since they're exactly the same, it just cancels out that square root sign and you're left with 2. 34 square root of 2, and the 34 over 2 can reduce. That's 17. So you're left with 17 square root of 2. And that is your x. So that would go here and here. When you label in your picture, don't forget your units. Meters. There you go. Make sure you bring this to class with you tomorrow and that you're able to do this on your own